Have you ever had a hard time deciding what shot to hit at what time? Well, I have the 90-10 rule that will help you understand what shot to hit at what time. Let's jump right into it. All right, let's talk about the 90-10 rule. So when you're receiving a ball and you get the ball below your waist, so you're contacting the ball below your waist, whether that's at the kitchen line, whether that's back it up in the transition zone, okay, or all the way at the baseline, you are gonna opt to 90% of the time hit it into the kitchen area, so I'm not hitting the ball out of the air. So 90% of the time, Lauren, when she gets that ball below the waist, she's gonna hit soft into the kitchen. That's gonna help you make majority of your decisions 90% of the time when you get a ball below the waist. Now let's talk about that 10% of the time. Come on up. So when we get 10% of the time, we're talking about speeding it up. So like hitting hard from below the waist like this, right? So when we decide to do that, we need to have some criteria. So the first is when your opponent is out of position. So if Lauren hits a really good dink over here and I dink it back, or I'm off balance or backing up, Lauren might hit to the gap or hit to the middle because she sees an opening because someone's out of position. So that's the first one. The second one is possibly the pal position of your opponent. So if we're dinking back and forth and Lauren sees that my pal is just chilling down low, she might speed it up to around my shoulders so that I can't get to it in time. So those are kind of two criteria that you can look at to when you want to speed it up. But you're only doing that 10% of the time. Most of the time, you're speeding it up you're softening it up from below the waist at contact. All right, let's talk about the 90-10 rule when it comes to above the waist, because obviously we're not going to always get the ball below our waist. So when we get the ball above our waist, we're going to be contacting and we're going to be hitting the ball hard 90% of the time. So if I get a ball up to her, 90% of the time, Lauren's going to be attacking, right? But then you're like, wait a second, shouldn't we be attacking all the time when we get the ball above our waist? Well, not 10% of the time, maybe even less than 10% of the time. I just think 90-10 sounds cool, right? So 10% of the time, when you're in the transition zone, okay, you're gonna get a high ball. You probably don't wanna attack from that, because look what happens. If Lauren attacks with that high ball, I'm gonna hit it right back to her feet, and she's gonna have trouble with that ball, especially if you don't get it low enough. Because when you're that far back, my lower body is blocked by the net. So when she attacks, she's gonna have to attack a little bit probably above my waist unless she hits a very small window. So example again, she hits above the waist, woo, here we go, big swing there. And the net's bigger, right? So if she tries to hit it hard, this thing is gonna be big, she has less room for air, just like missing right there. Do it one more time. So then I'm gonna be able to block it right back down to her feet. And I have a ton of time to react to it. I'm in the better position. I have the high ground, right? So Lauren, in that case, wants to hit it soft. You ready? Hit it soft, reset it. Let's do it one more time. Here we go. Soft, oh, here we go. So we need to work on this, do a little drilling sesh. Okay, so there we go. And then now I get at my feet. If I pop that up, now she can attack by approaching the net. So it's really tempting in the transition zone when you get a high ball to attack, but most of the time we should be soft, unless you have like a gaping gap in the defense and we can hit to it, or again you see someone out of position. But most of the time when you get that high ball in the transition zone, make sure that we're hitting it soft, okay? The exception to this is an overhead. So if you get a ball way above your head, go ahead and hit that all the time hard. But when in the transition zone, we get that shoulder high level, hit it soft, then approach the line, okay? All right, let's talk about another 90-10 situation, and that's with the serve. So when I'm serving, 90% of the time, I'm going to be hitting a topspin serve deep in the court. So it's gonna look something like this, okay? Good low to high motion, simple, deep in the court. Now, 10% of the time, I'm gonna mix it up. I'm gonna throw in maybe a cut serve, or a hook serve, or maybe even a short serve. So make sure that you're actually mixing up your serves and you're not just hitting the same serve with the same pace every single time, because then your opponents are going to get attuned to that and they're gonna be having consistent returns as well. You wanna mix up that pace and mix up the serve a little bit so that you're getting bad returns or even missed returns sometimes. So have a standard 90% of the time serve that you love to hit, that's consistent, that's deep, and then 10% of the time you mix it up with some other serves. All right, we interrupt this video for you to, Alina, out of the way. If you guys could smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the videos coming up next. All right, let's talk about the last 90-10 situation, and that's at the kitchen line when we're hitting dinks. So 90% of the time, I like to hit a consistent, reliable dink. In my case, it's the backspin dink. So I'll keep the paddle at a 45-degree angle, and I'm just gonna move through the ball nice and simply, and then get a good, consistent dink going, not too low over the net, so I have room for air. And I'm gonna be doing this 90% of the time, okay? Because I feel very consistent at it, and I can make it most of the time. Now, 10% of the time, I'll be a little aggressive. So I'll kind of throw in a little bit of aggressive topspin dink. So instead of going through the ball like this, I'm gonna move through the ball vertically and hit a little topspin. So it's gonna look like this. So I'm gonna hit a backspin dink, and then 10% of the time, I'm gonna do this, a little topspin, and that's gonna be a little more aggressive. So I'm gonna come up and over, and see how much quicker the ball is. I'm gonna come through, and I'm gonna get a little more aggressive with it, and I get a pop-up, right? And the reason, and I hit several in a row, but typically I won't hit several in a row. I'll hit like a couple backspin and then a topspin to be a little more aggressive so I can get a little pop-up. If I have a change in pace, it's gonna throw them off, and then I'll maybe get a miss hit from them or a pop-up. So what it would look like actually is maybe I'll hit a couple, 90% of the time, I'm gonna hit a couple backspin. Here we go. There's 3, another backspin, and then I'll see the right ball, and then topspin, more aggressive, pop up, oh, and then, oh, I missed that one. But you see the difference there is like, all of a sudden I'll be aggressive the topspin one to possibly get a little pop up. Lauren did a good job at defending that, but in some cases, I need to maybe just go 5 more, a little backspin, and then attack again with a more aggressive dink. So 90-10 when it comes to your dinks as well.